for me, we had developed this really good rhythm and this flow to our days. And then my eighth grader at the time was going into ninth grade. And so that summer, I was just poring over like what transcripts were supposed to look like, what course
Mm.
descriptions, what our state regulations were, the HSLDA and what they have to say about high school. And so
Mm.
when we started in August, that ninth freshman year, I just kind of threw everything out that we had been doing. And I was like, okay, so now's the time to get serious and to dot all of those I's and cross all of those T's. And, here's your textbook and here's the questions for it. And I totally went about it the wrong way. And, those first couple of months, I realized that there was a huge dynamic missing to this new adventure that we were on for high school. And that was
Mm.
all the joy that was infused in all of the years
Yeah.
previous.
My name is Sherry, Christian, wife, and thankful mom to 10 incredible kids. I'm the author of the blog and YouTube channel Our Life Homeschooling, where I share homeschooling encouragement for everyday moms. I believe that motherhood is ministry, and homeschooling is simply an extension of parenting. My passion is to cheer on other moms who are at home doing the most important work of all, raising the next generation for the glory of God. Welcome back to Our Life Homeschooling. I am sharing with you another homeschool mom interview. This is my friend Barbara. She's a new friend to me. We sat down together and talked about homeschooling through high school. A lot of parents get nervous when their kids are getting close to middle school and high school age. They love the opportunities that their kids have had in homeschooling and what it's brought to the family, just bringing the family closer together. But when we think about high school, sometimes it can be a little intimidating. I think when you hear this conversation with Barbara, you will be encouraged and given some fresh perspective on some of the chances and the positive aspects you may not have thought about in homeschooling your children through high school. Barbara gives some excellent resources towards the end of the video, so you'll definitely want to stick around and take a look at some of those. Let's go ahead and get started. Hi, Barbara.
Hi.
Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's so nice to meet you. We are new friends, and I really enjoyed talking with you just before this recording. I always wish that I had more time to do that with other homeschool moms. It's so nice to get to know so many different people from around the country.
Absolutely.
So, why don't we go ahead and get started? I'm going to let you introduce yourself and tell us what attracted you to homeschooling.
Fantastic. Hi, I'm Barbara. I am a wife and a mother to three, and I have been married for 25 years. And this is our fifth year of homeschooling our three kiddos. We have a fifth grader, an eighth grader, and a 10th grader. And I think that we've always been open to home education. We definitely, when my older two were young, I was trying to find things for them to do during the day to keep us busy, to fill those hours. And I went on Pinterest and all the blogs and found fun little things for us to do. But then I came across Confessions of a Homeschooler, and she
Mm.
had an amazing preschool curriculum that laid out what you could do with your kids. And back then we still had CD-ROMs. So I bought her
Right.
CD and printed all the things, laminated, cut them out. And we just had these little things that we would do every day. And they really enjoyed it.
Mm.
But my husband and I were public schooled growing up. And so
Mhm.
we just assumed that's what we would do once I needed to go back to work. And so we put the kids into an actual really sweet Christian school, and
Mm.
we loved it, and the kids loved it. But then, you fast forward to 2020, and online school was a thing. And we
Mhm.
realized that with the learning styles of our kids, each one of them is very different from the other. The online school wasn't going to fit. And so I felt this
Mm.
call to return to homeschooling. And so we decided to bring the kids back home and homeschool them full time. And we weren't sure if it was going to be full time all the way through high school or if it was just going to be
Mm.
full time for that year.
Right.
And it just turned into this amazing opportunity year after year that we wanted to keep pursuing. And so now we are homeschooling through high school.
So that we've always been homeschooling from the beginning. I'm sure that was quite an adjustment. Was that a big adjustment for you?
Definitely. So I had a brand new reader, because she was in first, and then I had a middle schooler in sixth grade. And so
Wow.
trying to balance the reading and everything that's involved with that, because there's so many different elements that you want to make sure you're not leaving any gaps for, but then
Right.
also realizing, well, I have a brand new middle schooler and there's so many things that she needs to know as far as like independence and learning, and she's learning
Hmm.
all of these new concepts that she didn't learn in elementary school. So at first it was a little rocky trying to figure out, how do I balance the three with
Yeah.
independent work and then also one-on-one work and that type of thing. And so what we ended up doing is grouping all of the subjects that
Mm.
we could outside of language arts and math, because math, they're just in completely different areas when it comes to
Right.
those.
Right.
And that helped us to really build a foundation for ourselves every day to kind of bounce off of. And I would go from youngest to oldest, and we were able to keep
Mm.
things organized so that
Yes.
we weren't, I didn't feel like I was being pulled in every single direction.
Right. Yeah, when you start with all three at once, I guess the biggest difference is that we started from the beginning. So you're always just getting that first child to read, and that's kind of like the big hump. And then they get reading and they get a little bit more independent. And then you kind of start with your next one. At least that's how it's worked for me. But it's like cold turkey, everybody at once, that is such a big thing to juggle. Plus, you're just kind of learning what homeschooling is itself. So I imagine that is a lot. So what is it like then for you in your home homeschooling multiple grade levels and multiple ages?
Definitely. So, what we try to do is balance what that independent work looks like compared to the one on one. And then,
Mm,
focusing in on our group subjects. Because, so with, my rising fifth grader and then eighth grader and 10th grader, their needs are definitely different. But my older two are very close into what they're studying, because
mm,
my eighth grader is taking a couple of like high school level classes already. And
mm-hmm.
so I can group some of their things together, which makes it a little bit easier once I finish. Because my younger one, her days are still pretty short because she is, just in the
Right.
fifth grade. And so
Mm-hmm.
in the morning, we do have like a morning time where we do Bible, hymn, all of the different enrichment courses that we like to
Mm-hmm.
include that we have on a loop schedule. And then they will go and do like math or language arts on their own. And then I will work with my youngest. And when she's done, then I come back to the other two. And we kind of go through all of the different areas that they need my help with. Although my high schooler, some of that has changed this past year because we learned from last year what we needed to change for high
Yeah.
school.
Yeah, you're always learning. I mean, this is our
Mhm.
15th year and there's still so many things that I'm learning. And I think one of the nice things about it is that I know for me, homeschooling itself has been an education. I mean, when you're learning things alongside your kids, you start reading things, you're like, oh man, I don't even remember studying this. And this is really interesting. And sometimes you just keep going.
Absolutely. It's so much fun too to want to read everything that they're reading, but
Yeah,
as a mom, you can't really do that. You have to let them go off and read
right.
their independent books, but you have that want to be like, oh, I want to be included into what they're reading
They're
so that we can
doing.
have these long discussions, because it really is nice when you have finished a lesson and they just want to talk and just really dive into the discussion aspect of it. I think in
Yeah.
the upper middle school and the high school years, that really starts to develop, where they have
Mhm.
like their own ideas and their own opinions and they want to bounce them off of you and they want to understand how things work now. It's really neat.
Yeah. And I love that we can have those conversations with our kids. And when they're home with you, they think of these questions and these conversations. They sometimes happen at the most unexpected times that it just makes me think. I'm so glad that I'm not missing out on this because those things can't be planned or, it's when the idea hits them or when the thought strikes and they're just wondering and you're there and you can talk
Mhm.
about it.
Absolutely.
So,
There's so many things that we would miss if they weren't at home.
yes, yes, so true. So I know you have a middle schooler and a high schooler. A lot of people are intimidated by homeschooling in the high school years. And I know I was, and I just was always looking ahead to moms who were already there to find out basically everything I could. I just wanted to know, how do you do this? It's such a great lifestyle, but it does intimidate people to think about homeschooling through high school. But really, at least for my kids, it's given them so much freedom. They've
Mm.
just had a lot of opportunities because they're homeschooled. It hasn't been limiting at all. So, for you, what was the transition like from middle school to high school?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, we had developed this really good rhythm and this flow to our days. And then my eighth grader at the time was going into ninth grade. And so that summer, I was just poring over like what transcripts were supposed to look like, what course
Mm,
descriptions, what our state regulations were, the HSLDA and what they have to say about high school. And so
right.
when we started, in August, that ninth freshman year, um, I just kind of threw everything out that we had been doing. And I was like, okay, so now's the time to get serious and to dot all of those I's and cross all of those T's. And, here's your textbook and here's the questions for it. And I totally went about it the wrong way. And, those first couple of months, I realized that there was a huge dynamic missing to this new adventure that we were on for high school. And that was
Mm,
all the joy that was infused in all of the years
yeah.
previous. And it took me realizing that high school is no different than the younger years. You just have a little bit more record keeping that you're doing now and a
Yes.
little bit more, that you are accounting for so that whatever path that they want to go off into, my oldest, she does want to go to college. And so we
Mm,
actually looked at some of the colleges that have um, courses and degrees for the career path that she might want to take. And that
mm.
is what really helped set the tone for the rest of
For
her
what?
freshman year. Because we
Right.
realized, well, this is what their requirements are, because they do have really amazing websites and pages for homeschoolers. Like if you want to apply to their
Mm,
college, this is what they
wow.
require. This is what the breakdown is. And at least all of the colleges that we looked at, they had just a plethora of information for us to pour over. And that helped us to completely realign very quickly what we were doing, kind of toss all the things we had, purchased and grabbed and go
Mm,
back more to the format that we had already, curated for our homeschool, where we were doing group subjects together and not
yeah.
necessarily science and history anymore because she does have to have the science labs and you
Hmm.
do just a little bit more technical things for it.
Right. Some things. Yeah.
Right. But enrichment and Bible, and we were able to keep those together
All
rather
those.
than me
Yeah.
feeling like she had to be off on her own doing these high school things. She could
Right.
be with us for a good portion because I didn't want to miss that in the high school years where
Hmm.
all of a sudden I felt like there was like a point of disconnect because there were so many requirements for graduation. I wanted her to still have that time where we could talk and discuss and have enrichment together and, observe things like we had been all of those years. And it was just me changing my thought process on how that was going to look for high school. And it really developed into this beautiful blossoming opportunity for her to
Mm,
take ownership for her
yeah.
education and to
Yes.
really start learning to love just learning every single day.
Right.
And because we were tailoring her education to her interests
Hmm.
for the pursuit of that degree. And so
Yes.
she's really been able to take off because she's just done phenomenal. I've really been so proud of her. And this year she's really blossomed into all the things. Last year was our learning curve basically.
Yeah.
And so that time management that she's learned, it I see it everywhere. I mean,
Mm,
from when we're going to church and how she's managing her time there, from when she does go to a hybrid school. So once
mm,
a week, she's out of the home, and that's where she's
mhm,
actually taking her history and an elective. And the way that she manages her time away from that organization to make sure that she's ready for the next week has been just amazing. And so I think that allowing them that, opportunity to start to explore that independence where they don't have to feel like, well, I need mom every single step of the way
right.
or those types of things. And we did enroll her into a couple of online classes so that
Hmm.
she wasn't completely alone. And she does have live teachers for those classes,
Mm,
at least once a week for some of them. And it gives her that opportunity to really explore that learning before the next class. And
mm.
so when she is going to be presenting to the class or to the teacher, she has an opportunity to have already gone down all of the little rabbit trails that she wanted to go down.
Right, right. Yeah, people think in the high school years that you're going to have to teach everything. You're going to have to learn algebra 2 again. You have to learn geometry. And I know my husband and I met in geometry class, so we don't know
Oh,
any geometry. But it really just means that you get to decide what's taught, when it's taught, and who's teaching it. It does not necessarily mean that you're doing everything.
right.
So it sounds almost like you kind of fell into a little bit of doing school at home rather
Mhm.
than letting your homeschool fit around your family life. What exactly can you speak to that? How can we avoid that?
Right, absolutely. So I did fall into that trap, absolutely. And so the best thing was realizing that I didn't have to teach everything off the get-go and that we could utilize online resources for her to gain that independence. And some of them offer grading, or some of them I actually have the grading book and I can go over it with her one on
Mm,
one. So, what we do now with our morning meetings is we have like check ins where she'll come and she'll review everything that she did the day before. And from that point, we look at what are your goals for today? And I kind of let her set her schedule where
mm,
she can decide in what order she wants to get her different subjects done so that she doesn't feel beholden to this arbitrary time frame that's been created. She can actually have some autonomy with her day. And if
yeah.
she wants to do art first, or if she wants to get her health and physical education out of the way first, she can choose that day how she wants to approach it. And
Mm,
it's just been very liberating for her to be able to have a little bit of control
yeah.
over how her day is structured and what it's going to look like for her. And I find that her having that ability also gives her ownership where
Right.
she feels like this is something that she wants to make sure that she is following through with because
Hmm.
she has all of this freedom to be able to dictate how her day is going to go.
Right. And that is such a great life skill to prepare them for adulthood, to have to manage their time and decide what's important. And I know when some of my kids got into high school, they started realizing some of the character flaws they struggled with, like procrastination. And, they almost learned the hard way sometimes because they didn't get stuff done. And then the next time they were a whole lot better at planning their day and managing their time, which is, the way some kids learn. And it's really great for them to take ownership of their education. Can you say, and do you have any other thoughts about how you can dispel some of the fears people have about homeschooling in high school?
Absolutely. So, one of the things that was so helpful for me is looking online at what other moms were doing and how
Mm,
they were utilizing transcripts and course descriptions. There are even some blogs and mamas that have put out course descriptions for so many different various curriculums that are available to us as homeschoolers. And you can just go in and tweak it for your family and how you're actually using that curriculum.
mm,
And I actually have my own little, high school portfolio where we have our state regulations, all of the things that we need, even teen
Mm.
life skills that I want to make sure she does before she leaves
Right.
the
What
house.
a great idea. That's
And we
great.
have our transcript, our course descriptions, and our 4-year plan. And it is a
Mm.
loose 4-year plan because we know as she gets into the higher grades, we'll probably elicit the, dual enrollment at
Mm-hmm.
some sort of university. So she'll
Mm-hmm.
probably take maybe English 1 there or something of that variation.
Mm-hmm.
And so knowing that what it looks like to provide the high school graduation diploma and those types of things, I think really help set you up for success in the end. There are some organizations that do offer to take the helm from you and to offer that where they do the grading, they do the record keeping, and they actually will give you a high school diploma. And BJU Press, the Academy of Home Education, I believe it's called,
Okay.
is a great place to start or to look at if that's something that you're looking for. We are going to be giving our daughter her graduation diploma from our homeschool, but there are so many
Mm.
options out there. So if you do a little bit of research, you can really, quell those fears of how do I put
Right.
this together? What steps do I take next? How is this supposed to look? So many people have gone before us and they have definitely painted a picture of what those things should look like.
Right. Right. Those sound like some great resources, and I can link those in the notes so that other people can take a look at them. Can you recommend any other high school resources that you use that you love?
Absolutely. So we have been loving for health and for PE. It's called Glory to Glory Fitness or Form, FORM.
Mm.
And you can get your health credit with that. And it's a really nice website because you can do some of the work and then they actually have physical workouts where she can actually work out with a trainer. And so
Wow.
she doesn't have to read a book and try to work out
Yeah.
to some pages. She actually has somebody physically there showing her the proper way to do a crunch or this or that. And then we have been loving the art classes from Master Books Academy.
Oh,
And it
okay.
takes you from line drawing all the way to drawing. And it's
Mm.
just been a really nice addition. And then our favorite language that we have been using is Spanish Geniuses from Flip Flop Spanish. And you can
Okay.
actually get on with Senora Ghost twice a week to practice your Spanish, which is
Oh,
so nice.
wow.
And so
Huh.
those electives have really added a lot of enrichment for her 10th grade year, where she has someone physically there that she can go to ask questions or to bounce ideas off of or to practice what she's learned. It's been a
Yeah.
fantastic way for her to learn this year.
Wow. Well, I'm interested in looking at those as well. Well, thank you so much, Barbara, for joining me. This has been a great conversation, and I am really excited for some of my viewers to hear this information and hopefully be encouraged that they can do high school. It's not as intimidating as it seems. It's actually very freeing for your kids, and they have,
Mhm.
I think, a lot more opportunity and flexibility with their schedule, which is really nice.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this.
Thank you for joining in on this conversation with me and Barbara. I know this has really encouraged me just talking with another mom. I always find new resources the more people that I talk to, and I'm definitely going to want to take a look at some of those links that she shared with us. So I will leave those for you in the notes. If you like this kind of content, I show up here every week. Sometimes I do interviews with other homeschool moms. A lot of times I do day in the life videos. And my whole purpose is to share homeschooling encouragement with other everyday moms. I like you to see what it looks like in our home and what it looks like in other families so that you can get some ideas and find something that works for your individual family. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next week.